For as long as we've had modern tech, we've had this one kind of fragile truth. Our screens are glass. They're stiff, they're brittle, and oh yeah, they break a lot. But what if they didn't have to be that way? What if our devices could bend and fold and stretch right along with us? Well, today we're diving into the science that's making that dream a reality. You've been there. We've all been there. That heart-stopping moment your phone slips and you watch it tumble in slow motion. And then the slow, dreaded turn to see the damage, that spider web of cracks, it's a feeling we all know way too well, and it's a constant reminder of just how fragile our devices are. But you know what? That frustration is exactly what's kicking off a revolution in material science. And this isn't just about trying to avoid a pricey screen repair. No, this is about completely rethinking what an electronic device can even be. The real goal here is to create electronics that are not just durable, but truly dynamic. I'm talking about stuff that can conform to any shape, whether it's your wrist or the dashboard of your car. And to get there, we've got to start at the very beginning, right down at the microscopic level. Okay, so before we can build a phone you can roll up like a piece of paper, we first have to understand the basic physics of why things snap in the first place. And it all comes down to these tiny internal forces that go nuts when you try to bend something. So the key idea here is something called bending strain. A good way to think about it is like stretching a rubber band. When you bend any material, the outside edge gets pulled apart and stretched, while the inside edge gets swished together. Bending strain is just a way to measure that internal tug of war. For the super delicate metal circuits inside our phones, even a tiny bit of extra strain can cause microscopic cracks, and that leads to total failure. So to figure out exactly where that breaking point is, scientists use these amazing machines to run what they call fatigue tests. They take a super thin metal film on a piece of flexible plastic, and they just bend it. Not once, not 100 times, but up to 100,000 times. And the whole time they're measuring its electrical resistance. The second a tiny invisible crack starts to form, that resistance number spikes, and boom, they know the material has started to fail. Now, to predict when that failure is going to happen, scientists started with a simple idea called the monolayer model. Basically, it pretends that the thin metal film and the flexible plastic it's on are just one single perfect material bending together. And that works okay, but only if the metal film is ridiculously thin. See, researchers found that as soon as that film gets even a little bit thicker, the simple model just completely falls apart. And why? Well, because the thicker metal starts having its own ideas, its own stiffness, and it resists the bend differently than the plastic underneath. That creates a ton of stress between the layers, a critical failure point the simple model totally missed. So you need the much more complex bilayer model that actually takes that interaction into account. And that's the big aha moment. The thickness of that conductive metal layer completely changes the physics of how the whole thing bends. It's proof that for reliable foldable tech, the spot where two different materials meet, that interface, is just as important as the materials themselves. You have to get that complex dance right if you want to build something that actually lasts. All right, so flexible circuits, that's one huge piece of the puzzle. But a foldable phone is pretty useless if the screen can't fold with it. And that means we need to take a huge leap from just bending metal to creating materials that can stretch while, oh yeah, still lighting up. So let me introduce you to the big breakthrough from a team at Stanford University. It's a light-emitting polymer they've nicknamed super yellow. Now, the real genius of this stuff is its nanostructure. At a microscopic level, it forms this kind of intricate mesh, almost like a net. This structure is what lets electricity flow right through it, making it glow. But it also lets the material stretch and deform without ever breaking those electrical pathways. It's pretty incredible. Using this new polymer, the researchers actually built a full-on display. You can think of it like a 7-layer sandwich. You've got your protective layers on the outside, then you've got conductive layers to bring in the power, and right in the heart of it all are 3 separate light-emitting layers, one for red, one for green, and one for blue, giving you the whole color spectrum. And the performance? This is where it gets crazy. This brand new display can be stretched to twice its original size, and it still keeps its brightness. Just think about that for a second. A screen that acts more like a rubber band than a pane of glass. That right there is the secret to making a device that's not just flexible, but truly durable. Okay, so we've got flexible circuits, and we have a stretchable screen. But there's one more big, rigid problem sitting inside every phone, the battery, right? You can't just fold a block of lithium ion in half. So how do you power a device that folds? The way today's foldable phones do it is kind of a cheat. They just stick 2 smaller separate batteries in there, one on each side of the fold. But new patents, like some from Samsung, show a way more elegant solution. It's a single battery pack made of multiple, thin, flexible cells all stacked together. These cells are then connected by flexible cables, which lets the entire battery bend a full 180 degrees, right around the hinge. This solves that last rigid piece of the puzzle and frees up a ton of internal space for a much cleaner design. So with these bendable circuits, stretchable screens, and foldable batteries, all the fundamental building blocks are finally here. And now we get to ask the really fun question: what are we going to build with them? This is the point where science fiction starts turning into engineering reality. First up, rollable displays. And I'm not talking about some far-off concept. We're talking about screens so thin and flexible that we've already seen prototypes you can roll up as tightly as a pencil. I mean, imagine a giant tablet that you can just roll into a little tube and stick in your pocket. But why stop at devices we just hold in our hands? Think about wearables. And I don't just mean a watch on your wrist. Imagine a display seamlessly woven into the sleeve of your jacket, or a screen you could apply to any curved surface, kind of like smart wallpaper. Okay, now this next one is really wild. Imagine a flexible sheet just 70 micrometers thick. That's thinner than a human hair that you can lay over any surface. It uses something called electrovibration to change the friction your finger feels as it slides. That means it can create the sensation of textures, like roughness or bumps or smoothness, right out of thin air. It's a screen you don't just see, it's one you can actually feel. You know, all of this amazing research, from the physics of bending strain to the chemistry of new polymers, it's all pointing towards a single, powerful promise. It's a future where our technology is no longer some fragile slab we have to constantly protect, but a durable, dynamic tool that actually adapts to us. And that really leaves us with the ultimate question. Once our digital windows on the world aren't stuck in a rigid rectangle anymore, once they can be folded and rolled and stretched and even felt, what new ideas, what new kinds of art, and what new ways of connecting with each other are we going to invent? The possibilities, well, they're truly unbreakable.